everybody, this is Tana with Proverbial Homemaker, and today we are going to do a little bit of a review on a grammar and language arts curriculum that my family has been using for a little while. This is something that I saw around and it just looked so interesting and fun that I had to give it a shot. So I reached out to the author of Grammar Galaxy to ask her if I could do a review and to share with you all our experience with it. And so I'm really happy to share this with you today. So if you have any questions during this Facebook Live or even after, go ahead and comment on here. Even if I don't catch them during the live broadcast, I'll make sure I'm able to answer them later, or even ask the author if she has any answers if I can't answer them, okay? And before I get too far, I wanted to mention to you that we do have a coupon code. So you can use the coupon code August 10 to get 10% off of any order at Grammar Galaxy through August. And they have free domestic and international shipping too, which is pretty fantastic. So throw that out there. You have the link, you have the coupon code. So sit back and I'll tell you a little bit about Grammar Galaxy and let me know if you have any questions, okay? So just to give you some insight into our homeschool, I have 6 kids. I am homeschooling 4-ish. My oldest is 10, and so I have a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, a second grader, a 1st grader, a kindergartner, and a preschooler. Anyway, I shouldn't have launched into that because I just got myself confused. When they're transitioning to new grades, it's really hard to figure out who's on what level, and we don't really do grade levels anyway, so we have a bunch of kids. And we wanted to teach them grammar and language arts in a really natural, sort of more Charlotte Mason-ish way, but something that was more sustainable for me as a busy mom with a bunch of kids to teach. So Grammar Galaxy really appealed to me because I saw that it was story-based. So I thought, okay, my kids love stories. We do a lot of read-aloud time. You know, our morning time is a lot of read-alouds, and so it's kind of already built into our day. So that's the main reason why I decided to try out Grammar Galaxy. So let me tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so far there are 3 volumes to Grammar Galaxy, and there's more on the way. There's Nebula, which is volume 1. Here's volume 1. This is the one we're using right now, and it is appropriate for like 1st and 2nd grade or kids who are just starting to be able to read confidently. I have one who's not able to read confidently, and she still uses and loves this program. And then there's volume 2, which is called Protostar. This is for sort of around 3rd grade and up, or if they've already completed volume 1. And then there's Yellow Star, and this is for around 4th grade and up, or if they've completed the first 2. So each volume comes with 2 books. It comes with the text that you're reading from. So these have all the stories in them, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a minute here. So it has the stories that you read, and then it has what they call the mission manual, and these are the activities and the worksheets that your kids are actually doing. So if you were going to purchase Grammar Galaxy, you would need 1 of the texts per family because you're reading the stories from this, and you would need 1 mission manual for each kid. And you can get either of these in PDF format or print format, which is really handy, especially for large families. It's nice to have the PDF so that you can print off maybe certain pages or print off for multiple kids or whatever. And then this one can be nice to have in digital if you want to use it like on an iPad or whatever instead of print format. So that's basically what's involved when you buy a volume of Grammar Galaxy. So the way it works is, like I said, you have the reading text, so you're reading them the stories, and then they do the mission manual work. So Grammar Galaxy it's very unique in several ways. One of them is that it's mastery-based, so instead of, you know, kind of spiraling through all of the things over and over and over throughout the curriculum, you're really doing a more mastery-based approach. So for example, each volume has 4 units, and in each of the units in each volume is literature, spelling and vocabulary, grammar, and composition and speaking. And so when you get to the end of the literature unit, for example, in the volume you're working on, there's a quiz at the end of it, or a couple quizzes, and if you complete it, then they give you this little bookmark so you can keep track of where you are, but you get to color in one of the stars for that unit and kind of keep your progress that way. So they all basically work like that. And of course, with each volume, it gets more advanced. So in Nebula, for example, which is volume 1, the one we're working on right now, It's for, like I said, first or second graders, or for kids who aren't quite ready to write confidently. So there's a lot more activities that involve very little writing and very little seat work. It's just, I'll show you an example in a minute, but it's more like matching things. And they give you these fun little doodads that go with it. So they have an erasable highlighter, which I have to show you this because my daughter loved this. She was able to, it says highlight your answers instead of having to write your answers. So a lot of her activity was using the highlighter to highlight things or match things, and it's erasable, which she thought was super fun. And then they give you this little bracelet they can wear. So it's this one in particular says Nebula, Guardian, Grammar Galaxy. So, and of course they just love that. So it's mastery based. It does have some built-in review. It's really easy to do. It takes about 10 minutes to read through it. You can read through, I love the fact that it's super flexible. So you can read through it as a family, which is what we're doing. We're involving it in our morning time because our other kids were just dying. They wanted to hear the stories. They didn't want to be left out. So we read it during morning time, and then my younger kids will take the mission manual and do the activities. And obviously for my youngest kids, I'm going to be helping them, more with those. Some of them I have to read it. There's a lot of oral answers that they do, and then there's the drawing and the matching and those sorts of activities, and then they have some extra suggested activities that you can do as well. And then the older they get, there's more seat work involved, there's more complex activities, complex things, but basically they all have the same format. But I love that it's easy to do. It's super quick, the kids love it. They ask to do this curriculum. They're always asking to do Grammar Galaxy, which for me is a big win. And the older kids, it has stuff built in there for the older kids to do as well, because, I don't know, she probably knew that the older kids were going to be dying to do it too. So they're able to do the more advanced lessons. And I found that even my 5th grader was wanting me to print out some of the pages for him to do as well. All right, so let me show you how it works. I marked off one of their favorite lessons so far. It was pretty early. They loved it. This was chapter 4. So in the morning, during morning time, we would sit down and read this. Of course, if they're older kids or you're doing later volumes, you can assign these things as independent work. Your older kids can do this independently. But my kids all were so interested in it, and I have younger kids in the mix that I wanted to learn from the reading that I did it out loud with them. So here's what the story looks like. So we'd read through this. In this particular story, so the way these work is that there's a set of royal siblings who are living on planet English, and they come across all of these incredible, fantastic challenges that are threatening their way of life on planet English, like children not reading anymore, or the synonyms and the antonyms getting all mixed up or whatever. In this particular story, what happened was the fiction and the nonfiction was getting mixed up, and the fiction had been labeled as nonfiction and was coming to life in Grammar Galaxy. And so I think it was Cinderella was running around and wreaking havoc, and it was really funny. The kids loved it and were cracking up. So these kids are faced with this problem. Their parents, the king and the queen, say, okay, here's this problem. They help them figure out what the problem is. We need you to solve it. And so these kids go about figuring out, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? So as you read, you'll see, I don't know if you can see this, but the vocabulary words are in bold, and then there's very, very simple definitions. And of course, these get more complex as you go on with the volumes. And then they have these boxes right here. And so during the story, the kids will be talking about these problems that they're facing and how to fix it. And they start referring to what they call their, I think they call it their guidebook. Yeah, their guidebook. They say, let's go check the guidebook. And the guidebook is basically the English or the language arts lesson text that they're referring to, and you're kind of peeking over their shoulder and reading along with them. So this is the information and the facts about language arts for whatever piece you're in that you are learning together. So this one talks about what fiction is, what nonfiction is, how to tell the difference between the two, and they say, okay, well now we know what to do. We need to get fiction to be re-identified as fiction instead of nonfiction. And so they call upon the guardians, the grammar guardians, which is your kids, and they write them mission statements to help them to save planet English by solving these problems using the information that they've learned through their guidebook. And at the end, it will have some comprehension questions that you can just discuss with your kids. Like this one goes through a vocabulary word. It asks them, you know, what does the guidebook say that fiction was equal to? And then like a comprehension, like attention question, what fairy tale came to life outside the king and queen's bedchamber? So you're done reading that. I also should show you, they have these cute little illustrations that somebody who's much better at art drew. Somebody who's much better at it than I am. Anyway, the kids love this. And I've even caught my older kids reading this on their own, just saying. So you read that to them, and then you go get your mission manual. And I think I bookmarked the mission manual for that particular lesson. So here's mission manual. Whoops, that's for update. Sorry. Okay, so you're done reading to them, and then you would either do this together as a family, or what was happening with me is some of my kids would go off and do their own thing, and then some of my kids would sit down and they would do these activities either all together, you know, we just sit at the table and do them, or some of them did them independently later on. So here's mission 4, identifying fiction and nonfiction. And this is a letter from the kids, from the story, to your kids saying, this is the big problem we're having, this is how we need you to fix it, you know, please save the day. Sincerely, Kirk, Luke, and Ellen English, Guardians of Grammar Galaxy. And then, which my kids really enjoy that. Like, I wasn't sure at first if they were going to enjoy the storyline and sort of the way it was all laid out, and every lesson was pretty much laid out in the same format, but they really enjoyed the pattern of the lessons. They really enjoyed the stories, and that the kids were talking to them through these letters to get them to, you know, invite them into the story and help them save the day. And I think it really helped them remember some of these lessons better than if we just sat down and did worksheets, for example. Anyway. So here are some of the activities. This one, it's like you're answering true and false, and so you can see she's using her highlighter. It has the vocabulary words that were introduced, and the way these work is you just talk about them, what they mean, and your kids use them in a sentence with you orally. Here she's circling pictures, circling the ones that are mostly nonfiction. More fiction, nonfiction, highlighting in these two. Here's an activity that's suggested, which are optional, but usually they're pretty easy, so we did them. This one was sort 10 books you have at home into piles of fiction and nonfiction. Be sure to put them back when you're done. So that was pretty simple, and it was good, because later my daughter would be like, oh, this is a fiction book, or this is a nonfiction book, when she was reading on her own. And then down here it has vocabulary victory, which is basically just a review to see if they remember what the vocabulary words mean. And then at the end, they have these advanced guardians only, so my older kids were able to, you know, if the earlier activities in the mission manual were too simple for them, or sometimes they would do them anyway because they were fun, but they would do the advanced guardians only. So this one says, write or dictate a sentence about which fiction book you would like to be nonfiction and why. So very simple. So then when you're all done, you go back, or for us, the way it usually worked is the next time we did a lesson, because I never remembered to go back and do this right after the lesson, but the next time we picked up Grammar Galaxy to read it, we would do the mission 4 update before we go down to mission 5. So here's the mission 4 update, and it's basically saying, you're awesome, good job. And then it says, oh, by the way, if you need to, here are the answers. So it has an answer key after every lesson. So especially with your older kids, they could do that more independently because they could check their work after. So that is basically how that works. Like I said, it goes through a unit of lessons, and then at the end of the unit, there are tests and quizzes to test their comprehension and retention. And then they get to mark off where they are and if they completed that unit successfully. I like that it's really flexible. I could do this curriculum all together as a big family, you know, as a large family, and then do it one-on-one with my little kids, and my older kids could do it independently. I could also get like volume 3 if I wanted, and have my 4th grader do that on his own by reading and writing. So it's very flexible, and I really enjoy that. And I think that's about, the other major thing I love is that there's no prep work involved, which, you know, that's almost like my love language. No prep work involved at all. So it's I would definitely recommend checking out, especially if you're looking for a more relaxed and natural way to do grammar with your kids. If you're looking for a way to do grammar or language arts all together as a family. You know, my oldest is in the 5th grade. We went ahead and just started as a family with the first volume, and my oldest has his own stuff going on separately as well, and that works fine for us. You could also just do this, and some families I've seen have started with Nebula all together, and then the olders kind of sped along ahead and they ended up in the later volumes. So there's so many ways that you could use Grammar Galaxy in your family. I definitely recommend checking it out. So remember, you can get free domestic and international shipping, and through the end of August, you can get 10% off using August 10. And check out the link, and please let us know if you have any questions. I know Melanie, the author, she's really nice, she's really smart. She'll answer your questions, or I'll answer them if I can. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Bye.